Hi, everyone. This is Rita.desnoyers Garcia of Becoming Awake and the Calm Mom Alliance and the Becoming Awake YouTube channel. And we are continuing with our series of Women Helping Women. And I'm really excited to introduce my next guest. I'm going to read her bio, and then we're going to get into it. So Wendy Taddeucci is a lifestyle coach for caregivers whose exhaustion, worry, and walking on eggshells is making them crabby towards their spouses or taking on more tasks and responsibility, and their anger is keeping them in a negative place. Wow, I think we've all been there in different ways. Through her coaching, Wendy works with caregivers just like you who want their relationship with their spouse to be more of what it was, to have more energy to focus on their own physical health and not to have to be on top of everything. So welcome to this interview, Wendy.
Oh, thank you, Rita. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. I'm so happy to have you here. So why don't you tell a little bit more about how you got into this line of work?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking. So I got into this line of work through my life experience. And like many of you out there, you go through something and it shapes you. So all of my life, I have seen my mom be a caregiver. I've seen her caregive to my dad, and I'll tell you more about him and his story and how that informed me of what I'm doing now. But back to my mom, I've seen her caregive my entire life, to my dad when I was very, very young, to her parents. Actually, before that, she was caregiving to my grandmother who lived next door, and then my dad, and then she was caring for her parents. And then later on, she was caring for my stepfather. So I've always seen her. It's always, caregiving has always been in the fringes of my life, and I've just been kind of looking through until I began caring for my mom 10 years ago now. And that's also part of why I do what I do, because when I started caring for my mom, it was not anything at all that I had planned, didn't anticipate it. I was just like, whammo, here I am. I'm a caregiver. Oh, crap, here we go. It was a struggle, and my relationships were not good, and my health was not good, and I was struggling. Once I figured it out, once I got myself figured out, and that I could be healthy and happy, and mom could be healthy and happy, and we both are, I thought, you know what, I need to help others that are in the same situation. But back to my dad. This really came to the forefront. I've always known this since I've been in my 20s. Let me backtrack. She's like, what the heck is she talking about? So when I was 6 years old, my dad passed away of colon cancer. And mom told me much later, I was in my 20s. She said, you know, your dad was my dad was taking care of his mother who lived next door to us. And she passed away. When she passed away, he finally went to the doctor for symptoms he'd been experiencing. And apparently it was pretty severe, because mom told me, again, when I was in my 20s, she said, you know, I found out that your dad was taking your grandmother's prescription pain medication.
Wow.
Because he was having such intense pain. And she told me this, like I say, in my 20s. It didn't really land with me until maybe last year, the impact of that. How he put off his own care, his own just going to the doctor, just calling the doctor. He put that off because, you know, he's working full time. He had me and mom to take care of and be with. And he was caring for his mother on top of all of that. And I thought, you know what? That's not going to happen again on my watch to any other caregiver that wants help and is willing to do what they need to do to take care of themselves first, to basically put their oxygen mask on. You've heard that analogy when you're in an airplane, you put your mask on first and then you take care of the person next to you. So So that's why I do what I do, because my entire life has been around caregivers and in that realm, and just the experience that my dad had, right? Because it does not have to be that way. You do not have to and should not have to sacrifice yourself to care for another individual, because it does no good for you. And it leaves that individual that you're caring for, without anybody potentially. So not to be a Debbie Downer, but that's my experience.
I don't think you're a Debbie Downer at all. I think you're a ray of light for women listening to this, because
thank you.
So many of us are in that, because we're moms, we're caretakers, right? We're caregivers. And I think there's a whole mythology that we build around how to do that well. And I think a lot of the myth is you have to sacrifice yourself on that altar in order to be a good caregiver, right? And so what I love about your story is that you've had generations doing it a certain way, and you're like, nope, not anymore. We're not doing this anyway, this way anymore. You're like, the buck stops here. I don't want it. I don't want, the next generations to inherit that. We're going to do this differently.
Very true.
So that's what I love about your story, is like, and I think that's true for a lot of people who end up doing something like what you're doing, or something different in a different realm, is they went through generations of doing it a certain way and it's not working anymore. We got to do it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Do differently.
Yep. Do it differently. So what kinds of people seek you out, would you say?
Yeah. So Rita, the types of people that seek me out, I'll just give you an example of a client of mine.
Yeah, perfect.
So Lauren came to me because she was helping her husband care for his mother in their home. And as a result of that, she was finding herself becoming someone she did not recognize. She found herself becoming bitter and angry. And this is not Lauren. Lauren is the most loving person you'd ever want to meet, but she found this creeping in, and she was resentful, and her and her husband were fighting all the time. And in fact, Lauren had hurt her back pretty severely, lifting her mother-in-law up off of the floor, which she had no business doing, right?
Oh, yeah.
She's not trained to pick somebody up, and she hurt her back pretty severely. And so physically, emotionally, the relationships, it was not great for Lauren. And so she came to me because she said she was tired of crying herself to sleep at night after fighting with her husband. And so through our work together, Lauren set up boundaries with her mother-in-law, with her husband. And so she's no longer picking this woman up off of the floor. When that happens, that's taken care of, right? And as a result, her mother-in-law is getting better care. Her and her husband, she said, are no longer fighting with each other. In fact, they are flirting with each other again.
Wow.
And Lauren was able to implement some of the coaching strategies that I used with her, which are very, very simple, into her work life, into her daily life.
Yes.
And she said that she feels balanced and empowered because of that. And so something you touched on when we first started talking today, you're like, this is for caregivers, what you're talking about, but really it's for everybody. And it really, really is, right? Everybody can benefit, no matter if they're a caregiver, and no matter if, they've got something happening in their life that they're just not facing.
Yeah.
This applies.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you do, and I love what I do too, because right, you can take the principles and apply them to anything, anything and everything.
Right.
And I've found, that a lot of the women I work with, stressed out moms, one of their issues is boundaries, right? It's that they don't have them. They can't say no. Yes has been rewarded. They've gotten a lot out of saying yes, But the downside was, once again, sacrificing themselves on the altar of people pleasing or making sure everyone's okay all the time. And they can't be happy unless everyone else is happy around them. It's like all of those boundaries are not there. So
They're not there.
yeah. So ladies, if you're listening to this, whatever's going on, boundaries, pretty good to have. Just
Yes.
so
Set them up. We're nice and strong.
yeah, exactly. So I'm going to ask the obvious question because it's my next question that I usually ask. How can this help stressed out moms? So can you give a little more answer about that?
Yeah, of course. And kind of leading into what we were talking about, like this applies for everybody. And so for stressed out moms, there's a couple of things, and I'll talk about the first of my 5 steps, and that is to face it. Like, where are you avoiding something? Where are you avoiding that conversation you know you need to have? Where are you avoiding, what is it? Because when you can know exactly what that is and own it and face it, then you can finally get some relief, and also begin to take good care of yourself and to put yourself first, right? Because when you're putting yourself first, you're filling your cup. Because when you have a very full cup, you have of that overflow to give to others.
Yeah. When
you have a cup that's empty or pretty much on empty, you have nothing to give to yourself. You're exhausted, you're tired, you're all of it, you're crabby, right? And you've got nothing to give. So the first thing is just like, okay, be really honest with yourself. What is it? And we all know what that thing is that we're not facing. Own it, claim it, shine a light on it, because when you do that, it lessens its power.
Yep.
And then you can take back your power over it.
Yeah, it's sort of like the monster in the closet, right? It's like if you open the door and you see the monster in there, it's no longer like a mystery, or it's like, oh, it's just monster in the closet. There he is, reading his comic books, eating his candy or whatever he's doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then it's not so scary.
Yeah. And then I think, one of the things that I found in the facing it part that used to scare me a lot is like, well, if I face it, then I have to do something about it. And I'm really scared about what I'm going to do about it. Do I have the capability to do something about it? So I'll just won't think about it. And that used to plague me for decades. And I realized that if I gave myself the option of not taking any action on it, but just facing it, then I could face it. And then what would usually happen is then I was able to muster up the capacity, ability, courage to face it, or it didn't even need to be faced. It just needed to be looked at and acknowledged. And then I could move forward, whatever it was, Do you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes it's, I don't like this person and I'm supposed to like them, right? You don't want to face that because then you think I have to do something about it. I have to talk to them about it. I have to, have a big controversial conflict with them. I have to push them out of my life, whatever it is. And then you realize, no, if you just acknowledge that maybe they're not your cup of tea right now, everything just starts to dissolve around that because it doesn't have, it's not the monster in the closet. It's just like, I'm just looking at it.
Yeah, we build things up. I mean, it's talking from personal experience, right? And I'm sure probably many of your listeners, your watchers, I'm not sure I said that right, do the same thing. Like we build things up so much in our mind. And then when we actually look at it and face it, and like you said, not, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to do. And this is like, don't look so far ahead, just what's the next step? And then you go, oh, I really don't have to do anything here. This is not as bad as what I thought.
Yeah.
Whew, that saves a lot of stress and anxiety when we do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love this conversation because it just overlaps so much with what I do, but it's just from a different angle, right? And by the way, I have a lot of moms who really struggle with caretaking or caregiving of their parents or an uncle or in-laws or whatever it is. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think this is going to be a great conversation for them to listen to. So,
Yeah. Oh, good.
oh yeah, absolutely. So how do people connect with you? And do you have anything that you're offering on a regular basis, on a once in a while basis that you want people to know about?
Sure, absolutely. So you can connect with me. I've got my link. I think you're going to post that
Yep.
in the show notes below, but it's very simple, coach-wendy.com. And on my website, when you go and visit that, I have a free resource for caregivers. And when I tell caregivers about this, they're like, oh my gosh, there's a path. There's something concrete that I can hang on to. And I'm like, yes. And it's my 5 steps to freedom and happiness for caregivers. So dive in there, grab that so that you can also enjoy freedom and happiness as a caregiver. It is not a pipe dream. It is totally doable. And also once a month, the last Thursday of every month is my Sliver of Light membership club support group. And so everybody hops on Zoom and that's struggling with being a caregiver and taking care of themselves. And this is where we support each other and we build up our community. And you realize that you're not alone. You're not in this by yourself. There are others that are struggling with the same challenges, and we come together, support each other. We laugh because as caregivers, there are things that we find funny that people that are not caregivers might not. So this is your spot to just kind of cut loose and have support.
I love that. I've done group work for a long time, and one of the biggest powers that a group provides is normalcy, is realizing you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
You may have a
Right.
unique story to tell, but you meet other people who have gone through the same thing and go, oh yeah, I've had that. And there's some amazing thing that happens emotionally when you realize, oh, these people understand what I'm talking about. I'm not going
Exactly.
crazy. Very
Yeah,
powerful. So I'm really
totally.
happy that you
Thank
provide
you.
both of those things. So guys, I just want to remind you, if you like this interview and you like this channel, please hit the subscribe button and hit the like button and all the things they say on YouTube. We'll have plenty of other, Wendy's amazing here, and there's going to be more and more people coming on and talking about different things. But I wanted to thank you for coming today, Wendy Taddeucci. Thank you for coming.
Of course. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, until next time.